And welcome to the Open Mic Gripe with myself, Jay Rice, and my co-host, Jeffrey Ide, the place where serious and silly complaints come to chat.
Open Mic Gripe is a weekly podcast dedicated to hearing your gripes, grievances, and opinions on any and all topics.
Every episode, Jeffrey and I will have an opportunity to get to the bottom of the issues which are lingering on the back of your mind and engage in order to create constructive conversation using a combination of lighthearted comedy and well-formed logic.
If you feel like we are wrong, inappropriate, or biased, then call in, email, or tweet to us and let your voice be heard. You can email us at openmicgripe@gmail.com or tweet to us at openmicgripe, and that's one word, Open Mic Gripe.
So jump on in and gripe on the open mic with Jay Rice and Jeffrey Ide.
Hey Jay, how you doing today?
Doing good, yourself?
I'm really looking forward to today's guest.
That's good. I would be sad if you would be like, I'm not looking forward to today's guest as they were sitting right here. I would be bad hosting.
There are times. No, this is going to be a lot of fun today. But before we get to it, I kind of had our hypothetical question of the day for you. And first of all, Jay, I have to ask, are you a fan of history?
I am not a fan of history.
Why?
Well, I'm just, most subjects actually come pretty easily for me, and history is not one of them. Although I'm great at memorizing really trivial facts, but not like important facts of history.
Not anything in context or anything with meaning.
No.
Okay.
No.
This is good to know. Well, still, I think you can pull this one off.
All right. Sounds good.
But,
I'm glad you have confidence in me that I don't have.
And before I'd also like to get the opinion of our wonderful guest. So before I ask the question, let me,
Oh, I said that is right. We have a guest.
Yeah,
Yes.
So I want to get his opinion as well. So before I ask the question, I'd like to bring into this dialogue.
That is a general agitator, and would you say major fuck up or minor fuck up?
Plain vanilla fuck up.
Plain vanilla fuck up, our friend Lew.
Yeah.
Hey Lew, how you doing?
It's wonderful to be here.
Excellent. We're glad you're here.
For those out there listening, I feel like I'm in some kind of an underground, netherworld, high-tech situation here. Here we are in a very pleasant room down in the basement, so we are underground. And here, two guys, they're techie guys. They put together a radio station, and using computers. We got microphones and equipment, and it's amazing. It's fantastic.
Got a couple of humzingers and doodads around here too.
You betcha.
Who's it? What's it?
Now I am a halfway radio head. I didn't know much about radio, and about 8 years ago, KNDS, which was at the time
Local
the radio
Fargo
station of
College
the
station.
students of NDSU. We'll talk a little about that later, but
Sure.
it invited me to put on a program. So I got together a couple other people. We called it Peace Talk Radio. I am a peacenik, and I'm proud of it. I was in the military in World War II. I was a member of what was known as the 82nd Airborne Division. I was a parachute rifleman. You know, the infantry is the queen of battle, like the queen on the chessboard. You can move anywhere is on the board, the queen. And the riflemen are her tits. And a parachute rifleman is a nipple on the tits. So we were right out there. 82nd Airborne Division.
So you were nipping out for the United States.
You betcha. Poking it out. And I am amazed at what creativities these guys have here. They put together a radio station in a guy's basement, and here we are. We can tell the whole world to go fuck yourself. Wow, isn't that something?
I know. I'm glad you fought for our right to do this.
Well, absolutely.
It is a duty and a privilege, I have to say.
Well, thank you.
Well, so I have a lot of questions for you, but before we get
By
started
the way,
with that,
I got my gripe list.
Excellent.
okay. Before we get started with that, though, I do
Sure.
want to ask a hypothetical question. I
Okay.
think you're going to excel at this because you've experienced a little bit more of history than the both of us,
Okay.
probably combined.
Okay.
So, my question
Are you
is,
calling our guest old?
yeah, what's wrong with that?
All right.
Hey, I just turned 89.
Nice.
89.
And I
Congratulations.
tell you what, I feel it in every bone. I got a doctor at the hospital, a doctor for every organ in my body. My nephrologist, urologist, dermatologist, cardiologist, and they're always calling me and making me take pills, and it's a bitch. But the alternative, what's the alternative? Huh?
Death, I
Yeah.
suppose.
Yeah. So
Like
you
you-
know, the muscle between my ears is still working.
Well, that's great.
It's the most important one.
Exactly.
Well, you know, who knows? But they've got a pill for the other ones.
I was at I don't know what you call it. There's a group playing and they're dancing at the VFW last night. My son-in-law plays the guitar there, so I went down to hear him dancing, and the group is called the Rhythmic Penguins.
The Rhythmic Penguins. Okay.
Do penguins have penises?
They do.
Well,
They do, huh?
They do.
I would suppose. Otherwise, I don't know how they procreate. But
Well, a lot of creatures procreate asexually.
That is true, but
Yeah.
penguins,
They're pretty hot stuff.
penguins are kind of contrary to popular belief. Penguins are kind of sluts.
Are
yeah,
they?
they're not the monogamous.
They're not monogamous.
Okay.
They enjoy a bit of philandering.
Okay.
But the father does look after the egg.
That's
at
true.
times, so.
Until
they,
it's born.
they come from eggs, huh? I didn't realize that.
So before I let this one go,
He really wants to get in this
I
hypothetical
got my
question.
hypothetical question for you. So, if you could go back in time to any charismatic leader or thinker in history to
Martin
share
Luther
your
King?
to share your knowledge with what you have and understand about today,
Wow.
to give that to them, knowing that they might be able to understand what you're willing to share with them. Who would you go back and share with?
What a good question. Probably my old friend Karl.
Karl
Marx. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I actually, why? Ask.
I think he had a tremendous brain, a tremendous perception. When I was a young man, Das Kapital fell into my hands, and I was entranced. I was magnetized. It exposed the inner workings of what's going on.
Okay. So you think Karl Marx would understand the technology
Well,
in the
he
world
had
today?
he had a huge brain.
Okay.
Of course, he had a collaborator, a guy named Frederick Engels. They worked together. But that would be an honor for me and an opportunity to match wits with somebody who had a lot of wit, a lot of brains.
What, you mean you're not including today and trying to match wits with us?
Well, you guys
Yeah.
are so far ahead of me, I don't even want to get into that race.
I actually have my answer.
Oh.
I'm glad you gave me a little bit of time because I wasn't really happy. I was thinking kind of about our forefathers and going back and saying basically where the country was going to go and maybe giving that a change. But I've got a better one. I actually know really what I would want to do. Tesla.
That is a great answer.
Oh, he
I
was
would
a
a-
genius.
I would want to go back to Tesla and just let him know about what Edison was going to do and just let him know that the technology now, and especially if he could know about the technology now, he would be, I believe he would be absolutely fascinated.
Absolutely.
And knowing that, I think he could really like spring us forward like centuries
What was
in
Tesla's
his time.
first name?
Nikolai.
Nikolai. He was a Romanian.
No,
Romanian?
he was Yugoslav.
Yugoslav.
Died penniless.
Yeah, well, he died penniless because he freed up the patents for all of his inventions.
Yeah.
He, unlike Edison, wanted to give it to the people. But yeah, so this is very interesting. You guys have both chosen someone who is very forward-thinking, a dreamer, someone very likely to understand the advances of the future. That is quite interesting.
Yeah, I'm glad you gave me a little time to actually think on that one because yeah, definitely I would go back to Tesla, and I actually
Wow.
think that could you imagine a world where if Tesla knew what it was like now?
Wow.
I mean, especially since he all the ideas that he had, like sending electricity through the air, which I mean, now you can actually charge your phone, not technically through the air, although they are working on that, by just like how I'm placing this pen on this pad of paper, you can start charging it. I mean, wireless charging,
energy transfer. Yeah, that's a really hard. Okay, so I would have been tempted to say Tesla, but I can't now.
Yeah, well,
Thanks.
too bad. I took it.
I like these questions because I like to ask myself, okay, if I went back to ancient Greece and I sat down with, name your ancient philosopher, would they be able to understand the future? Would they be able to comprehend it? Even Einstein
Can you bring back a mobile phone? Because I mean, I think if you could just bring back a phone,
because they would waste all of the battery on porn, and then it would be gone for the rest. Then it would just be a lump.
Oh, what are you talking about, Jeffrey? You would have wasted the whole thing on porn.
Let's not lie. That's probably true. No, but even Einstein, at the end of his life, just refused to understand the advances in science at the time. He hated the idea of quantum theory, of quantum mechanics. So
Why did he hate it?
it wasn't beautiful to him. It didn't fit into his neat little paradigm of how the universe worked.
Yeah.
Despite the fact that we now accept it as scientific fact, and it tells me something.
Well, he put space and time into one continuum,
Yeah.
and somehow he put gravity in there too. What the hell is gravity?
Yeah.
A big ass.
A big ass.
Well, it's a stable force in the family.
But it's the weakest force.
Well, when you get into physics, you got strong forces and weak forces, and they all play into the mix.
Oh yeah.
But anyway,
No, well, okay. So I'll throw my answer out there just to get it out there. But I suppose I would have to say, I'm still stuck.
Benjamin Franklin, a penny saved is a penny
I
earned.
think
I was thinking Abraham Lincoln, and I'd be like, hey, no, because that actually Abraham Lincoln turned down that was kind of like the beginning of the Secret Service, and he wanted to, and they said, let us guard you, and he turned them down. I would be like, no, take it.
Take it.
Take it. Go ahead, do it. Although it's interesting just to see how the country would change just by not having Abraham Lincoln assassinated. Maybe it would be worse. Who knows?
He became a martyr to the cause.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Which is why in a previous episode I asked the question if you could.
Yeah, it was basically the answer was who could you kill or get rid of it, and they said Hitler. But like you said, the death of Hitler, or actually Hitler, brought more of the world together to fight against him. Do you think the same thing is happening with
That's
ISIS?
an interesting observation.
Yeah, I mean there's a silver lining in every cloud, and I think with a group like ISIS, which is even showing the more radical followers of Islam what pure, unadulterated radical Islam looks like. You're without a state around it, and you're starting to see people come together and say, actually, there's certain luxuries in life that we'd like to work together towards, so that's interesting. It is bringing the Middle East together. But okay, let me. I would say,
I would be beyond the Middle East. It's bringing more than just the Middle East together.
oh yes,
Yeah, it's an interesting phenomenon. And then they cut people's heads off. Is that a hobby, or is it? Do they get paid for it?
Well, I would say, when I was into beheading, it was definitely just a hobby. I mean, nobody was really
Just-
paying me for it.
Those were
for the
Jay's
fun of
more
it.
heady days.
What's that?
Those were his heady days.
Very good. Touche.
I'm actually having difficulty coming up with this. I'd have to say David Hume. Philosopher David Hume.
yeah.
I think he would be able to understand
Yeah.
the future. But
David Hume, the Scotch philosopher. What was his major work?
his major work was dealing with, I believe it was on human ethics and
he was a
logic, understanding.
philosopher.
Yes.
And he said there's only 4 approaches to philosophy. As I recall my reading of David Hume, there's idealism, materialism, eclecticism, and nihilism.
He did try to oversimplify a lot,
Oh yeah, oh yeah. Well,
but
trying to get at the root of it. You
Oh, yeah.
know, where do you stand philosophically?
myself,
Yeah. What would you call yourself? An idealist, a materialist?
I think you do have to. You have to be able to balance a sense of.
Look at all this equipment. I'm a materialist.
You have to be able to balance a sense of nihilism with a sense of realism, and
Okay.
there's a note of meaning, of defined meaning that you have to give yourself every single day to get up and to work towards making life better for everyone else in the world. But at the same
What a
time,
beautiful idea.
at the same time, you have to be able to remind yourself that
What
all
a
of the
beautiful
dis-
idea from such a filthy mind. Disgusting, ugly mind.
You got to take the good
Well,
with the bad.
you know why the Indian people love the lotus? The lotus, you've seen the lotus, it's white, it's beautiful, and its roots are down in stinky mud. And so the Indian people say, we're down in the stinky mud, but we will rise to beauty.
Wow.
That's a nice concept. Yeah.
I
was a teacher in India. They paid me to bullshit, and which is
You taught philosophy.
yeah. Well, philosophy is an interesting study. Philosophy, the love of knowledge, the meaning of meaning.
The love of pursuit, anyway. We don't know if we ever get to knowledge, but
But we pursue it.
Yeah.
Exactly, and that's the beauty, the journey, not the destination.
absolutely.
Yeah. I wonder if anybody's listening to our chatter here. Is there a number somebody can call in and tell us? whether they
Not
listen?
at the moment, but at any time, if somebody would like to join the conversation, they should just send us a tweet at OpenMicGripe or send us an email, openmicgripe@gmail.com.
Or find us on Facebook and comment on our
okay.
Facebook page, or find us at openmicgripe.libsyn.com. And putting in comments on there, we'll make sure to add them.
Lisbon?
Libsyn, Liberated Syndication. That's actually the website that we go through to release this podcast.
Okay.
Well, if I can cut to the chase, I want to
Yes.
know your story.
My story.
Yeah.
I got a lot of stories.
What makes Lew Lou?
Well, my mother and father got together. And
I felt like he was going to be like, well, when two people love each other, a man and a woman.
yeah.
I've known you for a little while, Lou, and I got to say, every time we talk, I hear something that just blows my mind.
Oh.
And
well, I didn't.
I've barely heard you touch on your stories about the war.
Okay.
I barely heard on you talk about your teaching in India, your work in activism, which, correct me if
Okay.
I'm wrong, but is extremely distinguished.
Thank you.
So how did you get into this life?
Way back, well, I've been involved in the world around me, not just to bitch and complain, but to be involved, to try to do things, to change things, and the one thing you could label me as an activist. I'm not a guy who sits and complains and bitches about this. In fact, I don't, those kind of people turn me off. They don't.
You like people that sit on a podcast and bitch and complain?
Well, I think this is a form of activism that involves technology and, well, you got to have a lot of brains to get into this thing. And,
Or blind courage in Jay's case.
well,
Yeah.
yeah. Anyway, as I say, my people were, I was fortunate. My people were vegetarian, pacifist, nudist,
What?
and socialist.
Oh, my.
Boy, when I was a little boy, I had penis envy, I'll tell you. You betcha. Anyway,
See, sorry, and I don't mean to interrupt, but
no,
can you
please.
But can you be a pacifist and have been in the war?
I was not a pacifist then.
Okay.
And
So were you partially a pacifist because of the war?
good question. I don't know what turned me to pacifism, but seeing war and all its horrors against innocent people, children, and the way it messes people's minds up, war, they become killers. And I had a cousin who was a lieutenant colonel of the Marines. And he loved to kill people.
He
Son of a
enjoyed it?
bitch. Huh?
He enjoyed it?
He enjoyed it. He liked to kill people. He was the black sheep of the family. He's dead now. And what did he die from? Emphysema. Heavy smoking.
Okay, I did not see that coming.
Well, I guess there are people that enjoy killing, and I guess what a better place for them than in the military.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's,
unfortunately, because
or the
They
police.
get paid for it. Like my sergeant said, we give you 3 square meals a day, a place to sleep, and you got nice boots. Thank you, fucker.
because I know so many people
Sergeant
that
duty. He had a gun on him that laid on his lap. And he spent his life drinking beer. Oh, boy. He said, we want you to stay in the Army. We got plans for you. I said, I'll be eating shit with the chickens before I stay in this Army. And finally, he signed the papers to release me out of the Army.
no kidding.
But anyway,
Lou, you're starting to sound like a bleeding heart liberal.
anyway, as I say, my parents were activists and believed in involvement and did what they could. And as a little boy, I remember going to demonstrations and that kind of thing. So I was,
What kind of things were being demonstrated?
this goes back, unemployment, WPA. A lot of the progressive programs of the government were put in place because people fought for that. It just didn't happen.
If you, sorry to interrupt, I'm just trying
No,
to put
that's
some,
okay.
just trying to put some context to this. If
Sure.
you're 89 years old right now,
Right.
it means that you were raised through the Depression.
I was born in 1926.
Okay.
And the Depression hit in about 1930-31. 1929 is when the stock market crashed. People jumped out of windows,
Wow.
And so I remember seeing people picking through garbage cans for food. Times were tough. I was born in New York City. I had no choice in the matter. There I was. I remember my mother giving me a thermos of hot coffee to give to my father, who was on a long line. A guy named Fiorello LaGuardia was mayor of New York. He was a feisty guy. Some cement companies were trying to screw the city, and LaGuardia put in place the city's own cement company. He said, the hell with you guys, we'll do our own. And My father was on a long line in the winter to get a job shoveling snow for the city. I brought a little income in. I remember it was a early morning, maybe 6 in the morning, 5 in the morning. And I was looking at men, a long line. I found them giving this hot coffee. Times were tough, and my parents, we discussed politics, issues, and what have you. So anyway, I was tuned up to participation in activities. I was an activist as a little boy, I can remember. Anyway, one day, this is about 1958. A guy named, I tried to think of his name. He was the head of the United Electrical and Radio Workers of America. It was called the UE, United Electrical Workers. It was a left-wing union, and they tried to destroy it. But it was a powerful union, and it really represented its people. And he called me up. He said, "Lew, we know your background. Would you like to go to Kentucky and help organize a GE runaway plant?" Now, nowadays, a factory, if they want to run away, they run away to Malaysia, Ecuador, Taiwan. But in those days, they ran away to the South, where it was not much union influence. Racism was strong. And so I said, okay.
Is.
Huh?
Still is.
Still is. Thank you, Jeff. And so I went down to...
I was going to make that as a joke, but I was just like, well, I don't really know. But
it's there, man. It's there. And so I went down to Louisville, Kentucky, and got a job at GE. Here's the term they used in the labor movement. I was called a colonizer.
Colonizer.
I went into the plant and organized from the inside.
Do you mean like you were planted?
Yeah.
So as
To
in
create
I
an
planted myself.
to create a union.
Yeah, to build union.
Ah.
So you were an infiltrator.
I was whatever you want to call me, a subversive, an infiltrator.
And you basically got people on your side to work towards this.
There
union.
I was, and I started talking. And
People started
I
listening.
got a little following there. We talked about union, and eventually the UE got in.
May I ask you, were you risking anything by doing this?
Well, I suppose.
You have to understand, unions
Nobody's
are so...
going to kill me, I don't think.
Right. Well, I mean, unions are so commonplace today.
Yeah,
They're such a
but,
fact of business
There
that
was no union there.
we don't remember how much people had to struggle for this.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of the GE fought the union tooth and nail. They gave out little pins. I remember it said NUR, no union required. And you could see the company guys, wearing their pins and so forth. Anyway, being involved in the labor movement, I got to know a lot of people in town. And one night I got a call. I was about 9:30. It said, "Can you handle a gun?"
Okay, I just
Yeah.
we're going to definitely continue on that. I just wanted to
Okay.
point out you're calling out times and names and stuff. I can't remember what I had for breakfast yesterday, and you're like, I got a call about 9:30. You've got an amazing mind on you there.
Well, I'm working on a screenplay of this whole situation.
Nice.
Oh my gosh.
It's
Okay.
called Kentucky Home. Oh, the sun shines bright on my old Kentucky home.
I was gonna
It's
improv
summer.
that one.
It's summer, and the niggers are happy. You know that song?
No,
that's,
I don't think they teach that at school anymore.
Foster. That's you remember Foster, the guy who wrote a lot of folk songs.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyway, can I handle a gun? I said, well, I trained on all kinds of guns in the Army. What's up? They said, we're being attacked by the racists. Could you come out and help us?
So now the Union is, or who is now?
Well, this unfolded.
Okay.
A black guy, prosperous businessman, an electrical business, articulate, handsome man, wanted to move out of the ghetto. He wanted a house in the suburbs. And he was persistent. He had money. He had a successful business. So how does a black guy get a house in the suburbs? Everywhere he went. What the? Are you crazy? Not for sale. My daughter's coming back, or blah, blah, blah. Eventually, a real estate guy told him, said, get a white guy to buy the house, transfer title. So my friend Carl Braden, who's dead now, I'm the only one left in it. Everybody's dead, including Andrew Wade, the black man. But anyway, so Carl bought the house with Wade's money, with the black guy's money, transferred title, and the black guy moved in. The people looking and said, oh, you're getting the place ready for the man. He said, no, this is my house. I bought it. That night, the cross was burned, and a brick went through the picture window, and people driving by saying, get out of here, nigger, and the whole shit. So I came out there, and they gave me this rifle, and I was in the back, and when they shot, you could hear the bullet thud into the house. I just shoot a little elevated in the direction, bam. So they knew we had guns there. Anyway, we formed a committee, a defense committee, and we had guards on duty 24 hours a day.
Wow.
You had a militia to protect a friend.
More or less.
Wow.
Anyway, the situation went on for a couple of months, and then things quieted down. And Andrew Wade, the black guy, his theory was once he got in and showed people that he was clean and a decent human being, like anybody else, they'd live and let live. That was I remember his little slogan, live and let live. So after about 3 months, things quieted down. And a lot of us were tired of being up at night guarding, and we had rotation of guards, and it was well organized, and we had people there. Things were quiet, and we all thought, well, they finally accepted this as a, fait accompli. So we pulled the guards off, and about a week later, Andrew Wade was coming in the house with his 2 daughters and walking them toward the bedroom, and a bomb went off under the house.
Jesus.
They would have killed them. Nobody was hurt, fortunately, but the house was unlivable. So there was a grand jury convened, as racist as you can imagine, and we were called into the grand jury. And who was called in? Every white person that was involved in defending and assisting and enabling Andrew Wade to have that house. And this is a little funny, but I was working in a big deputy sheriff badge and all. Said, I got a bench warrant for you at the grand jury. And so I took me to the courthouse, county courthouse, and there I was, boom, in front of this grand jury. And the head of the Inquisition was a guy named Scott Hamilton, who was thinking of using this as a stepping stone to becoming governor of the state. Anyway, I was what would you call me? Contemptuous of him, and I was a wild-eyed guy. I mean, nobody can stop
How
me.
old were you about the time?
I was about 27, more or less.
Mm-hmm.
And so the first question he asked me was, gave my name, address, swore, and all that stuff. He said, all of a sudden, are you now or have you ever been a member of the Communist Party? And I was absolutely furious. I said, the crime was bombing a house, not ideas. And my politics are my own private business, just like your sexual orientation is your private business. I didn't know he was gay. He was a closet gay.
Oh.
He turned beet red, started stammering. He said, we're adjourning for the day.
Oh my gosh.
I outed the bastard. I mean, he was a closet gay. Of course, in those days, nowadays, everybody's gay. I mean,
Well.
gay pride.
Yeah.
Those days, to be gay was,
Right.
I mean, it was like,
It would have ruined him.
it did.
Yeah.
It did, yeah. So anyway, so Carl, the guy who transferred the house,
Yeah.
it was Christmas time, and they had these good Christians. So he was convicted of sedition, whatever the hell that is, and sentenced. He could have gotten up to 20 years. They only gave him 18 in their Christian charity. So Carl was the guy who transferred the title, white guy, was up in what we call the Castles of the Cumberland, on the Cumberland River, the state pen, with an 18-year rap.
Jeez.
Anyway, we fought on, and the Supreme Court eventually threw the whole thing out and said the state could not convict you of sedition. That was a federal offense or something. So he got sprung.
Wow.
And of course, I couldn't get a job. I'd been on TV and radio, and I was known. I remember I walked into the Ford Assembly plant. I was a good welder. I went through a whole procedure, and I was ready to get the job. So he said, that's Lubka. Boom, out on my ass. So I had to leave Kentucky. I loved Louisville. I loved Kentucky. And what did I do? I went back to school, to graduate school, at Georgia Tech. Yeah.
In Georgia.
In Atlanta, Georgia.
For some reason, you just felt like getting deeper into the South.
Well, yeah. Yeah.
What'd you study?
Well, when you're an activist, I suppose you go, for something
Yeah.
like that, you go where you're needed.
Yeah. Well, I had been I started out as a chemical engineer. No, started out as a chemist. I loved chemistry. And then I became a chemical engineer. I went to work for a big paper company on the beautiful Wisconsin River. You've heard of the Wisconsin Dells? Nikola Edwards Paper Company. And so I was working for them I remember on the night shift. And the shift was about over, daylight was coming, and the head engineer said, we're dumping these chests into the river.
Chests.
Chests, big containers of liquid, toxic liquid. She'll call them chests. Tanks. I said, that's toxic stuff. He said, the old classic, dilution is a solution to the problems of pollution.
Oh, my.
Dumped the chests. I got off the trick, and it was the mill pond. And I saw dozens of fish belly up. I said to myself, this is not my cup of tea. I started thinking of what else was I going to do. So eventually, I studied city planning, not shitty planning, city planning at Georgia Tech. Got myself a master's, and that's what I did. And they brought me out here.
But it brought you here to Fargo.
Well, I was at a conference in, I think it was St. Louis, and at a conference they give papers, you know. And there's always a little job market, and there was a guy there from NDSU. I lucked out. His name was Earl Stewart, dead now. A real gentleman. We worked together for pretty much 20 years. We had disagreements. There was never any disagreeable. He was a gentleman. He let me do my thing. Wonderful guy, wonderful man. So that's how I came to Fargo on a 1-year visiting lectureship.
Okay. So
Here
you were
I
a
am.
lecturer here.
At NDSU.
Okay.
Here I am 43 years later. 1 year, they asked me to stay on, and I got tenured, and I brought my family here. And so
And they didn't mind your past?
They didn't know about it.
Okay.
I don't go and say, hey, I've been in jail, I've been indicted for sedition. No,
Well, I mean,
you know.
there was a huge period of time, correct me if I'm wrong, where, you know, McCarthy era and people
yeah.
were hunting down professors.
I'm glad
and-
you brought that in. That was the height of McCarthy era, the McCarthy era. Yeah. In fact, at our trial, there was a guy. Well, you might remember the name Matt Svedick. He was one of those people that they brought in, and he pointed and he said, "Yeah, he's a communist."
Oh.
You know. It was that kind of atmosphere, you know.
Did you get fingered?
Up where? That costs money. Well, anyway, so I went on to graduate school, got a master's, worked around, and wrote this book. I worked 3 years for the National Urban League. I don't know if you ever heard of the National Urban League. Jeff, I'm surprised you haven't.
No, I'm sorry.
National Urban League is a black
I mean, I'm an
organization.
idiot. I mean, we're nobody's surprised. I don't understand this, but yeah, we are surprised, Jeffrey. It's never been in a movie that I know of, so.
Public enemy number one.
So the National Urban League.
National Urban. It's a black organization. Trying to think of the head of it. He was a pretty famous guy. He died mysteriously in Africa. Jordan. His name was Jordan.
'Cause
Anyway,
I was going to say, this was not your only work with civil rights when you were in
Right.
Kentucky.
right. Well, no, I didn't know anything about the National Urban League, but when I was in New York, I had a friend that worked there and said, "Come on, we want you, Lou." And they brought me in. Then I found out the difference between a token black and a token white. You've heard of token blacks?
Mm-hmm.
They put them out where everybody can see them. They say, "See, we got a black working here." A token white, they say, "Hey, we got this white guy here in an all-black organization." They worked my ass off. They sent me all over the country. Anywhere there was trouble, they sent me there. And I remember we went to, they sent me down to New Orleans. New Orleans is a city subject to flooding, and they have what they call this huge Lake Pontchartrain.
They sent you there as a city planner?
No,
or-
well, as a representative of the blacks of the country.
Okay.
I went there with 2 black guys. We were the 3 of us.
Okay.
And there's a part of New Orleans called the Lower Ninth Ward, which is jet black. And
Is that the one that flooded during Hurricane Katrina, or?
yeah,
Yeah.
oh yeah, oh
Okay.
yeah. And Lake Pontchartrain is a place where wealthy homes, and as the lake was rising, of course, they let the water go down to drain it, to keep the level okay. The only problem is it floods the lower Ninth Ward. So I never forget, I went down there to talk to the mayor and other people in New Orleans. We stayed at a black undertaker's place. And I said, "You got any stiffs here?" He led me to a room, and there was slabs with dead people. Oh boy. Anyway,
I'm slightly cringing. I really have to know where this story is going.
it's about to end.
No.
What more do you want?
mean,
Blood?
Actually, as a rep of the National Urban League,
Yeah.
did you actually feel in danger from basically a lot of whether the KKK or just white racism? I mean,
Good question. I was somewhat fearless. I was out there and fuck 'em, I didn't care.
you're a parachuting
Yeah.
rifleman, yeah. I mean, what do you got to be afraid of, right?
I was a nipple on a tit.
So, but was this before or after Martin Luther King Jr. got involved with?
He came in later.
Okay.
In fact, I'll never forget. I was as a student at Georgia Tech. I was involved. I had a handful of friends who were against racism. We did different things. We met, I remember, in this church, and one day this short guy, it was Martin Luther King, was down there with us, and there was another guy there. It was interesting. Boy, trying to remember names. He later became the president of an African country.
Not Liberia.
No.
No.
No. Oh, geez. I should write these things down. Anyway.
Tell you what, you're doing quite well.
Thank you. Thank you. So anyway, this was Martin Luther King, and we were talking, and we were planning an action. And we said, "Are you with us, Reverend King?" I don't know, called him Martin. And I'll never forget, he said, "I'm thinking about it." He was a thinking man. He wrote about 7 books. He used Gandhi as a kind of a pattern, a model, but he said, we got to find our own way here. We can't do what Gandhi did. But he was a student of Gandhi.
And you helped convince him to become a part of the movement.
Well, no, not at all. No.
This is where I get to tell a story about Lew.
Well, hold on now, and we do want to know, like, especially if you're wrapping up that story, you were at that funeral home.
Oh, yeah, in the lower Ninth Ward. Yeah. And we said, if they release any more water from that dam, Lake Pontchartrain, we're going to tear the city up. They didn't do it. That was it. They shut the gates, and that was it, But I don't know.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
They send me around for trouble spots.
Fearless Lew, send him where he needs to go.
I have to leap at the opportunity whenever I see Lew out in public, because whatever there's a form of activism, or any type of celebration for equal rights, especially in this community, Lew's there. And
Well, I can say that for Jeff Hyde. He's a real activist. A shit disturber.
I just stand on a stage and tell dick jokes. I mean, I don't know. I'm really in.
You are also an activist. But so I was
This is a form of activism.
Oh,
I'd
yeah.
say
It's-
as high as you can go. I mean, this is
the way I see it.
This is fantastic.
The way I see
Thank
it.
you.
Morality is sourced in awareness. The empathy one receives through awareness about any particular perspective ends with morality, a heightened sense of morality. And so if we can share someone's perspective, if we can share their story, they might have a little bit better of idea how we're all connected. And so I was at a protest for the various infringements on civil rights and civil liberties in this country. We're talking at the time there was some police brutality going on, as there has been. And this particular case, we were a few hundred of us out on the bridge in Fargo asking for solidarity. And, you know, we were there with the police as well.
Asking for awareness.
Right. And the police were there as well, in the best of contexts. They were there to pledge support. You know, it was really a beautiful day. And there was a couple of reporters there from the local newspaper. I won't forget this guy who was walking around interviewing people. He had to be in his late 20s, relatively new in the journalism industry. And he was interviewing a group of people, and there was Lew, and next to him was a black friend, and they were talking about civil liberties in this country. And the interviewer asked the black woman about police brutality, and Lew kind of chuckles. He said, "Oh, I know a thing or two about police brutality." And the guy kind of gives an incredulous look at you, if you remember this. I won't forget it. He's like, "Sir, with all due respect, you're a aging white gentleman. What would you know about police brutality?" And I remember, I won't forget it. You hiked your pants up. You took a deep breath, and you said, "Let me tell you something, sir." And then he went on, and he recalled this story that he just did about being there on the days when Martin Luther King was asked to join the civil rights movement. And this young reporter was shaking in his boots as he realized who he was talking to here. I got to say, I enjoyed that so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, you know, we have a kind of a hashtag, Black Lives Matter.
Yeah.
Blacks have been killed by police all the time.
Yeah.
And it was just another black guy killed, you know.
Yeah.
I'll never forget, I was down in Kentucky, and there was this black guy, a father of 4 or 5 children, a businessman, driving down in Texas, driving home. Cops stopped him for some reason. Probably DWB. You know what that
Driving
is?
while black?
Yeah.
He got out of his car and they shot him dead. A father. This has been going on,
Right.
on and on and on, and now we're becoming aware of it. Ferguson, Missouri, the killing of that unarmed
Right.
young man.
Well,
I actually,
Yeah, go
well, I
ahead.
was going to say, I actually think that this is, you know, like there definitely are people that are against technology, and what people have to realize about technology is that it is just a tool. And I think that this is one area where technology is finally bringing the awareness that basically, you know, the black culture has needed for so long. That because I mean they can say it as you know as much as they want, but until people are finally seeing these videos where you know a student's pulled over and just is murdered right there on video, and
Right.
people can see it plain as day,
Right.
and no amount of white people saying, "Oh no, the cop had a right." No, this was he was in danger. Everything people can see this
They
video,
put people in the so-called chokehold
Right.
and strangle them.
right?
And they got the badge and the gun the uniform, and they got the right.
Well, I think the other side of this, of course, is because as more and more people are suddenly aware of this, there's a kickback within general society. We feel not. I'd like not to think myself, but a lot of people feel empathy fatigue, and certainly just fatigue about this issue in general, because they personally have not been at the other side of this law, and so. When you have such awareness, you're going to get a lot of kickback. But at the same time, that's why activists really need to continue to step up their game and keep it in everyone's face.
Well, the average person, they say, with liberty and justice for all. And they think that's the way things are.
Yeah.
And now with technology, we're becoming more aware.
And thank you so much for joining us, Lew. That was the conclusion to part 1 of 2 episodes with our guest, Lew. And we look forward to concluding this next week. And so stay tuned, and you'll hear more interesting stories and anecdotes and a few amazing opinions from our guest. So stay tuned.
I'm not going to be